Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all okay. Well, I'm not. I've tried recording this video once already and we had technical issues, so I made myself a cup of tea. I would suggest you do too, because we could be here for a while. I am here today to talk to you about Bamba, the musical, currently doing a UK tour. I have thoughts, so I'm going to get into them in a couple of seconds. So here we go, let's get into it. Firstly, before we do though, if this is the first time you seeing my face, may I introduce myself. Hello, my name is Claire. I'm normally based in the West Midlands and we talk theatre and travel. I occasionally do theatre reviews and chats. Not really a proper review because I don't feel strong enough to call them actual reviews. We just chat. And we also discuss other things theatre related, and I also love to travel and slip a little bit of that in every so often too. But let's get into what we're all here for. Bamba, the musical, which I took myself over to the Leicester Curve, one of my favourite theatres in the Midlands, to discover this brand new piece of theatre, and what a whirlwind it was. So like I said, this show started its tour in the Leicester Curve. I was lucky enough to have time off to go and watch it midweek. I went on a Thursday afternoon. I think it was its third performance of the entire tour, and it was press night in the evening. And because it is a brand new piece of theatre, there are obviously a few technical moments where mics maybe weren't up in the right time, and you kind of miss some small bits of the dialogue. But like I said, it was a new work, and most people were fine with that because of the names attached to it. So let's get into those. So starting off with the creative side, one of the main draws for this show is that the choreography has been done by the wonderful Graziano De Prima, alongside Erica Da Silva, and also with the help of the associate choreographer by the name of Giardellini. Hopefully I'm pronouncing all those names correctly. I'm terrible at names at the best of times, so I truly apologise if I have said any incorrectly. Graziano is known mostly for his work in Strictly Come Dancing, and this is actually the second production I've seen at the Curve where the choreography has been done by someone from Strictly. It's a kind of written rule that I go and see stuff when it is at the Curve when that happens. The choreography of the show is quite Latin based. Obviously the story that it goes on throughout the show, and the plot of the show is quite Latino based, from the music used to the plot of the show, and the way the choreography works alongside that story worked really well. Alongside the Latina ballroom-esque moments, there is also a few other genres slipped in, but they all work so well together. It's not like one piece is one genre and one piece is the next genre. Everything just flowed really, really nicely. And obviously if you've been watching Strictly for years, you will know those kind of big moments and those big pieces of the show, and from that aspect it was really quite nice to watch, especially as someone like me who just has an appreciation for dance, but knows nothing at all about it. Because look at me. As I mentioned, the music, I'm just going to quickly dot that in. The music of this show is jukebox-esque in that the music used is from other excuse me, is by other performers. So you have the likes of Hips Don't Lie from Shakira, Let's Get Loud from J-Lo or Jennifer Lopez, don't know what she was at the time of her singing that song. You also have La Bamba Itself by Richie Valens, but also there are a few songs that I'd never heard before which I now am quite enjoying. There is one called Via Mi Vida, probably saying that incorrectly because I've never spoke Spanish in my life. The song is by Mark Anthony and I actually really enjoy it, to the point that I've been listening to it since I found it on Spotify and was like, this is a catchy ditty. That was a little insight to my world there. I enjoyed the mix of songs. I enjoy listening to new songs as well, ones that I've never heard of, ones that I can get into a genre in a bit more depth. But at the same time, sometimes some of the songs were used to progress points of the plot on. I will get into the plot shortly. And because they weren't in English necessarily, you kind of have to just work out what's going on through the movement and action on stage, which had its moments. Let's just leave it there for now. And let's move on to the cast. So the cast is 8 ensemble members strong and 4/5 lead roles. The ensemble was incredible. Like I said, it was 8 strong, but they worked so fantastically well together. They felt like, or I felt like they were never stopping. They were never not on stage as a 8 strong ensemble, and their work was absolutely amazing. They worked so hard, but it was just so effortless, and I really enjoyed watching them. The ensemble of this production are thus, I'm going to read them out so hopefully I don't say anyone incorrectly. We have Tristan Ghostkeeper, Brendan Graham, Luke Jarvis, Gabriella Rose Marchant, Nicole Matthew, Betha Mitchell, Julia Ruiz Fernandez and Alex Sturman. And there we go. Like I said, top-notch ensemble, really lovely to watch, and they were excellent. Speaking of excellent and the ensemble, Act 1 finale was one of my favourite moments, just because it had all been building up to something throughout the initial Act 1, and the way that it was ended was quite pivotal, I suppose, in the show. And the main voice in Act 1 finale was the fantastic Stephanie Aritza, who plays the lead, Sophia's mum. I'm not going to ruin the plot too much, do not worry if you have plans to go and watch this show, but it kind of ends in a very powerful moment, and the power that Stephanie has in her voice was absolutely amazing, especially in that moment. I just enjoyed listening to her throughout the entire show and really wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention my enjoyment over a certain aspect of her character, because at the beginning of the show, Sophia is telling everyone about her life and her family and how they celebrate things, but they celebrate things well. So you have brief introductions to characters like the drunk uncle or the overly sexy aunt, I think is how she was described, and then it got to her mother, and her mother was like, yes, I know she's beautiful and young, but that is how I remember her. And I just sat there listening and I was like, is that just to explain why she is like literally stunning when the lead is supposed to be portrayed as like a young teen below 20 in age. I don't know, but it made me smile, so I just had to say it. Moving on to our male leads, the people who are pictured alongside our lead, who I will talk to you about in a minute. We have Pasha Kovalev, hang on, which one are you? Pasha Kovalev and Siva Karisvaran. Hopefully I've pronounced their names correctly because I've been practicing so hard. Like I said, they have been put on every single poster, and I'm sure it's the reason for many people buying their tickets to see these two performers, and they worked so well in their roles. They both also had their moments to shine. Obviously Pasha is a very gifted dancer and he had his moments throughout the show to do so, and the same with Siva. He is obviously a very talented musician and singer, and he had his time to sing and shine too. But they also were excellent at kind of moving back slightly to put the leading role of Sophia in the spotlight, which was the best idea. Let's get into that leading role. We have the gorgeous, stunningly beautiful, not jealous at all, Inez Fernandez, who is Sophia in this show. She is so beautiful, her voice is stunning, and you would never believe that this is her first professional show. She graduated last year, and yeah, she is just amazing. Her voice is beautiful. She dances alongside the ensemble all the time, and she is an amazing dancer as well. I'm really excited to see what comes for her next, because she is just absolutely lovely. There we go. I might have a little girl crush. That's okay. Now let's get into the elephant in the room. As you may have worked out, I haven't really discussed the plot of this show, and there is a reason behind that. This show, as a dance-based show, is enjoyable to watch. I really enjoyed watching all the work done throughout the show. However, the plot wasn't my favourite. Just gonna put it out there. So Paul Morrissey's writing of the show, of the plot, basically follows the lead Sophia through youth to teenage or young adult age, as she learns to follow her dreams, to kind of tread in the footsteps of Richie Valens, who is one of her dad's heroes, who tragically dies in a plane crash at the age of 17. If you know the song American Pie, and you know the bit where it's like long time ago, and they say the day the music died, that was the plane crash involved, because alongside Richie Valens, two other artists also sadly lost their lives. So throughout the show, that story, real life story, is mentioned a few times. So that is kind of going on alongside the actual story of this show, which is basically Sophia and her trip from basically nothing to stardom after being found by an artist and being taken on tour. Alongside that, however, there is also elements of how her community in an area of America was impacted by both politics and the Donald Trump era, as well as not so recently when we had the pandemic, and how the Hispanic community was affected by the pandemic and by coronavirus. So you had those little elements also dotted it in throughout the journey of Sophia, and although the plot was kind of easy to follow through, it kind of at times felt a bit stunted and a bit clunky, and some pieces of dialogue were put in just so that it could get to the next song. Yeah, it just wasn't my favourite plot, and some parts of it were kind of predictable, in that you could kind of work out what was going to happen next before it had happened. But also, saying that, at the same time, there are moments that you think you know what's going to happen, or there are plot points you think are going to go on throughout the show and kind of lead that way that never properly happen. There's not the major love interest situation throughout the show. It's kind of hinted and then all of a sudden doesn't come to anything. It's just a really interesting plot, that I just, there were definitely moments that I was kind of like, oh, okay. Especially with the ending of the show. It kind of just like finished and I was like, how, okay. Yeah, for me, I just feel like the plot needed something. I don't know what. I'm clearly not an expert on these things, but there's just occasionally something just missing. I don't know how to explain it. It just wasn't my favourite. So basically, if you are a fan of Strictly, if you are there purely for the dance, you're going to have a great evening and have a great time. There is definitely a pocket of that kind of audience throughout the show. They are there for the dance, they are there for Pasha, they're there to see the choreography by Graziano, they are also there to see the cast do their thing. But if you were in it for the musical element, I feel like it just could do with a bit of support. Obviously, like I said, this is the start of the run. Things could change. Even the best shows such as Fisherman's Friends had multiple changes in its progression through its theatre life. I'm willing to see it again longer down the line, see if they change anything. But right now we shall wait and see, basically. But it's not something I'd rush back to watch. And there we go. That is my thoughts and feelings on this show in its entirety. Apologies if throughout there has been multiple different camera views, I've had battery issues, I've had technical issues. It's just not been my day to film. But I wanted to film this day so I could edit it and upload it ready for the weekend. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Have you seen this show already? Have you got plans to go and see this show? Like I said, it is touring around the UK. I believe its next stop is Sadler's Wells in London, and then it's going various other places around the UK. But yeah, there we go. I'm going to finish this video here, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed your cup of tea. I definitely did, although mine was finished a good hour ago now. But I love you all lots, and I hope to see you in my next video. But yeah, cheerio, farewell, see you next time, bye.